we go back in time by 24 hours. At around this time yesterday, the Prime Minister at the BJP headquarters, as he was being felicitated, decided to open up. Now, the Prime Minister is not given to emotions, viewers. He doesn't let them get the better of him. But yesterday, viewers, he wanted to make a point. He wanted to go out there and talk about how he believes that there is an ecosystem of, as he called them, neutral, supposedly neutral individuals who have become, in his words, thekedars of the narrative and build, viewers, and spin stories about the work he does, about the manner in which he sees and practices his politics. The Prime Minister says that he has always been mocked and criticized. In fact, he says that it's not just criticism. There is now a new endeavor, which is to literally tear him apart. He used the colloquial term dhajji udana in his speech yesterday, viewers. He says, but that doesn't deter him. It only makes him more alert. It makes him also more determined. But he did say that if these individuals call themselves neutral, then they must be neutral. Why do they change their colors? And he speaks specifically about election times. He says before an election, these neutrals suddenly assume a partisan position where they begin to color the narrative, color the canvas of the conversation. But an assessment of the election results, viewers, is never honest. And therefore, they very quickly also change their colors. The Prime Minister says the time has come for the nation to now know the games that are being played by these so-called neutrals. And that the time has come that a war must be waged against the negative forces that only want to divide the country, to weaken the country. Listen into what this message sounded like from the Prime Minister's own mouth, viewers. For a while, he abandoned the script of restraint and allowed you to see an aspect of him that he keeps clearly hidden away from the public glare. Listen into this.
शायद मेरे जीवन का कोई पल ऐसा नहीं गया, कोई कदम ऐसा नहीं रहा जिसकी धज्जियां न उड़ा दी गई हो, जिसकी आलोचना नहीं, धज्जियां उड़ा देना, बाल नोच लेना। लेकिन इसका मुझे बहुत फायदा हुआ, क्योंकि मैं हमेशा सतर्क रहा। पिछले कुछ चुनावों का एक बड़े कैनवास पर एनालिसिस करना चाहिए कि जो अपने आप को न्यूट्रल कहते हैं, जिनका न्यूट्रल होना जरूरी होता है, वो कहां खड़े होते हैं, कब कैसे रंग बदलते हैं और कैसे कैसे खेल खेलते हैं, वो अब देश को जान लेना बहुत जरूरी है। उन लोगों को भी जानना चाहिए, पहचानना चाहिए कि ये भी ठेकेदार है। समाज के बीच दूरियां बढ़ाकर राष्ट्र के सामने नई चुनौतियां खड़ी करके जो राजनीतिक दल तत्कालिक लाभ लेने की फिराक में रहते हैं, उन्हें देश की जनता, देश की युवा पीढ़ी देख भी रही है और समझ भी रही है.
Viewers, the opposition was quick to respond on behalf of these neutrals. One doesn't know why they felt the compulsion to respond to an attack really on individuals that at least ostensibly have nothing to do with them. But nonetheless, the opposition was very quick off the blocks this morning. Large number of reactions came in, not just from the various satraps in parliament, but also from beyond. Listen in, viewers.
It is the BJP who is doing this job. It is not the Congress party. It is the BJP who is creating disharmony.
This is height of double standards in the address of the PM to the nation. I will advise Honorable Prime Minister to preach what they practice. They are talking about social disharmony and creation of social disharmony. Everyone knows which political party and which leader does social disharmony, such communal disharmony, and they only want to have the society fragmented on the caste and region lines and reaping political benefit out of it. It is the BJP, we all know.
और जो आज नफरत की राजनीति है, जो आज समाज के अंदर विभेद की राजनीति है, वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेताओं के बयान और भारतीय जनता पार्टी के द्वारा अपने एजेंडे को आगे बढ़ाने की राजनीति के कारण ऐसी स्थिति देखने को मिल रही है. भारत की जो अन्य पार्टियां हैं वो तो चाहती हैं कि देश में समृद्ध समाज का निर्माण हो.
Now, viewers, you've heard both sides, and let's just put this up for a fact check, a critical evaluation. What is upsetting the Prime Minister? Let's have a look. Fakery. Prime Minister's visit to Morbi cost rupees 30 crores. This was a claim made by just before the Gujarat elections, of course, by a leading spokesperson of the TMC. The PIB came out with a fact check saying that the RTI neither received nor was it replied to. It misrepresented facts with malicious intent. In fact, what was quoted by the TMC spokesperson was some sort of a morphed story that had appeared in the media. That is what the government said, viewers. Another instance was when a leading news magazine came out and said that the BJP has the power to remove online posts, and it ran a series of reports, viewers. A fact check revealed, exposed the magazine that was forced to admit that they got fraudulent information which they failed to verify, and they published it. But nonetheless, viewers, that led to many developments, not to mention the fact that certain international agencies that call themselves the gold standard of assessing democracies around the world rated India very poorly on its index. So there were very serious repercussions, nationally and internationally. Then there was this instance, viewers, where during the Rafale deal, so-called exposés, a leading newspaper published a certain note. The fact check revealed that the note was quoted very selectively, and the Supreme Court, in fact, gave the Rafale deal a clean chit. But viewers, for a while, that did have a massive impact on the public mood ahead of the 2019 elections. Then there was an article that claimed Chinese troops had basically occupied Finger 2 and 3 in the Pangong Tso area, which was a clear violation of the international territorial line, the LAC, on the Indian side, viewers. A fact check revealed that the army itself had come out and refuted this claim as a fake one. Once again, of course, viewers, India was made to look weak its international image took a dent, and there was, of course, domestic politics, which had the potential to influence public opinion negatively. Then there was a claim, viewers, that was made that the opposition believed that only 151 trains had been privatized. As we know, viewers, apologies for the spelling mistake there in the graphic, but as we know, viewers, that this claim was also negated as one not based on facts. Of course, viewers, it's not as if the opposition has not attacked the BJP and sometimes the BJP's leading spokespeople. For example, agencies linked Gautam Navlakha to anti-national activities. The Supreme Court recently said, can you convict him for writing Dear Comrade? Taking a slightly dim view of the investigative agencies. Of course, the matter is still sub judice, but I'm only quoting what the Supreme Court observed. There was a tweet that was put out in the public domain by a BJP spokesperson saying that the Congress had prepared a toolkit to corner the Prime Minister. Twitter tagged that post as manipulated media. Another spokesperson tweeted a video claiming there was no lathi charge on farmers. Again, Twitter tagged the BJP tweet as manipulated media. And there are some other examples of how India slipped to 164th rank in fastest growing nations, but PBI fact-checked that claim as fake one. So, viewers, on either side, there have been, of course, instances when fake news has been used or propaganda has been used to try and paint pictures. But has the Prime Minister suffered excessively? That's the fundamental question. I want to open this up and ask the Bharatiya Janata Party's national spokesperson first. Sanju Verma, thank you for speaking tonight. I want to ask you a very straightforward question. Can you give me some reasons why the Prime Minister has singled out neutrals, obviously in civil society, for this sort of contempt, so to speak? Why does he believe that they are aligned against him, they're biased, they have, as he used the word, potential to dhajji udao?
Rahul, first and foremost, I think you gave an excellent introduction which just about covered every aspect of the fake narrative that has been built, especially over the last 8 years, ever since Narendra Modi stormed to power as the Prime Minister and took charge of the reins in Delhi in 2014. Not to mention that he has been criticized and demonized and vilified and sullied and maligned over 20 years of his career in public life. I think without being too verbose, let me cut straight to the chase. And the limited point is this, particularly with respect to Gujarat, let's be very clear, it's not lost on anyone, Rahul, that for over 2 decades, the Gujarat model has come under severe and sharp criticism by an ecosystem. That is why I said on a couple of debates, including on your channel, that the BJP's landslide in Gujarat is not BJP versus Congress or BJP versus Aam Aadmi Party. It is not a victory of BJP versus XYZ political parties. It is a victory of BJP versus an entire ecosystem. An ecosystem which obviously has political parties, but more obviously, which should be acknowledged by a lot of people, which they fail to do, is that it's an ecosystem comprising leftists, academicians, so-called intelligentsia, people who've spared no effort to run down Narendra Modi personally, from his personal life being discussed, from his child marriage being discussed, to the manner in which he meets his mother and takes her blessings, that being discussed, to the fact that even after the Supreme Court, I say this to your audience, even after the Supreme Court in June this year completely abdicated Narendra Modi of any kind of criminal conspiracy with respect to the Godha riots. What happened? You saw the likes of Ajay Makan, Jairam Ramesh and a whole host of opposition leaders gathering at Jantar Mantar to stand in solidarity with Teesta Setalwad, whom the Supreme Court said, quote unquote, she acted acted with a mala fide intent to keep the pot boiling. Name me one other democracy, name one other country where the top ranked judiciary actually abdicates the incumbent government and there is still an opposition which stands in solidarity with the perpetrator, with the aggressor, somebody who's been spreading canards through the last 2 decades. I think that is the crux of the entire issue. Look at the Ahmedabad tiffin blast case, which left close to 5 people dead. After Justice A.R. Patel announced the judgment and a Samajwadi Party leader's son was involved, what was the narrative? Modi sarkar hai, abhi opposition ko to ye victimization jhelna padega. And last but not the least, I'll take 20 seconds to tell you this. What was the narrative in the last 24 to 48 hours? In fact, ever since exit polls came out, the narrative being peddled, and I'm not going to hold back my punches. I am emotive, and I don't think today I need to be the larger person. Let me be as straight as it gets. Before the campaigning started in earnest, Arvind Kejriwal said, इस बार गुजरात में झाड़ू लगने वाला है, बीजेपी जाएगी, हम आएंगे. आईबी रिपोर्ट के मुताबिक हमको 90-92 सीट्स मिलेंगी. एंड ही एडेड, ये बड़े गंदे लोग हैं, इनसे डर कर रहिए, हमको 150 जरूर दिलवाइए, नहीं तो ये गंदे लोग हमारी सरकार बनने नहीं देंगे. Who was he alluding to in terms of gande log? It was the Narendra Modi led Bharatiya Janata Party and the Modi government. The limited point I'm trying to make is, what was the narrative then? Kejriwal will storm Gujarat, decimate BJP. What was the narrative in the last 24 to 48 hours? Ever since exit polls said that he will not get more than 15 to 20% vote share, an entire cabal of journalists said, oh, but he's becoming a national party, so what if he's not able to decimate the BJP? That is the false narrative that the PM was alluding to, no holds barred.
Well, of course, there have been other instances that have been talked about in depth. For example, Medha Patkar and a group of NGOs who went on quite a mission against the Sardar Sarovar Dam, etc. Viewers, there have been instances, no doubt. But let me get the other side in. Lokesh Jindal, Smita Prakash is also there, not that she's on the other side. She's a neutral, not the neutral of the kind that Mr. Modi is, of course, described, but an upstanding journalist. Smita Prakash, let me first come to you before I bring in the Congress and Mr. Asutosh and Ishkan Bhandari and Rijiju Da of the TMC. Smita Prakash, I know that in some quarters, certain custodians have referred to other media as, for example, pliable. They have said that there is something called a Godi media and Todi media and God knows what else, in an attempt to sort of color perceptions. Does this also extend into the political domain against the Prime Minister, etc.? I mean, you faced it. Is there truth to what the Prime Minister is saying?
Yeah. Thank you. In fact, Rahul, yesterday when I heard the Prime Minister's speech to party workers, this was a very significant part of his speech, and I was really amazed that the 9 p.m. bulletins didn't catch on to that. The fact that he, like you said, deviated from his usual, what he would say to his party workers after winning the election. I mean, these terms which you have said, neutral is not something which should be a pejorative term, agreed. But then in that cloak of neutrality, the agenda-driven journalism or agenda-driven fact-checking which is done, it's there for all to see, and the Prime Minister called it out, and it's high time that it is called out from the highest office. I mean, he said those who are supposed to be neutral in analysis claim to be neutral. They're actually politically motivated, something that most of us are seeing it day in and day out. He called them thekedars. Now, there can't be a worse term than using the word thekedars. It's a strong indictment. And why did he say this? Just now you just heard this entire spiel about how he's been targeted, and it's been motivated targeting of Modi since 2002. It's not constructive criticism but vicious and targeted attacks intended to destabilize his government since 2002. and wreak havoc in the state. Why? Against the people of the state for electing him again and again. Not that, that he was guilty of the riots of 2002 or anything. He got a clean chit. But whether it was the Narmada Dam movement, as you mentioned, preventing him from getting an American visa, amplifying various charges for aiding rioting, there was this relentless thing which was going on for 10-15 years. Now what happens is that the insidious part, Rahul, is that you go on repeating, then even people like normal people like us think, maybe there is a grain of truth in it.
Okay,
maybe
but
there is something to it.
This is important.
Because you're bombarded with that all the time in newspapers and magazines. Sure. That is why.
But can I ask you, some people will say that today the Prime Minister is basically, he's sort of resorting to a kind of labeling of what is dissent, of what is constructive criticism, and by using words like thekedar, etc., he is also indulging in a game of sort of maliciously sort of maligning those that have stood against or criticized him. And there are some examples of individuals who lay claim to that sort of outlook. How do you respond to that, Smita Prakash? Because there will be people who will say this. In fact, they are. The Congress, etc., saying it.
See, he's not a Sant Mahatma. He's not a saint, right? He's a politician. He's human. He's talking to his people. And what was he saying? He said that you guys have to work with this sole agenda. What did he, in fact, Rahul, I mentioned this yesterday in one of your shows also, where when he was talking to his people, he said that, we are told that we have an election machinery, that we are a mechanism that wins elections, but it's not done something which we have sacrificed our personal goals, ambition, lifestyle, needs, everything in this social service. And then he says that be ready that because you have done this selfless service. And then he mentions the Chief Minister of Gujarat, who is won with this stupendous majority. And then there are these other people who have even lost their deposit in Himachal Pradesh, as they lost in Uttarakhand, and they never get mentioned in newspaper reports. They never got mentioned yesterday in TV analysis that they lost their deposits also. Right? Every AAP candidate lost his deposit, his or her deposit in Himachal Pradesh. Was that mentioned in analysis? It wasn't mentioned. All that was talked about was that they have become a national party. So he is talking as a BJP politician when he talks to his people to say that this gentrified language that is used in television studios, he didn't mention television studios, but he talked about this elitist hypocrisy that is done in cloaking of this language, but actually it is a tool, a political tool, which is being done not by politicians, but by people who claim to be neutrals. That is what he was trying to say.
Okay, let me bring in Asutosh ji. Asutosh ji, you've of course been a politician, you've been a journalist. Let me ask you, what would you call what the Supreme Court described Teesta Setalwad as having done? Keeping the pot of the Gujarat riots boiling by going out there and trying to influence various witnesses, etc. Was that agenda-driven social justice campaigning? Was that activism? Or was that journalism?
See, Rahul, I can say that I have done a little bit of journalism, and I'd also seen the time of Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Advani. And I've also seen Narendra Modi, and I had seen him quite closely also. And I had done studio discussions with him in studio too. But I can say one thing, that there is no doubt about it, that Mr. Narendra Modi is one of the most criticized politicians this country has seen. I'd also seen Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Advani were also very much criticized. But if you are a politician, if you are in public sphere, you can't complain that you are being criticized. I have never heard Atal Bihari Vajpayee complaining that he's been criticized. Advani was also widely criticized when he started his Ram Janmabhoomi Yatra. But Mr. Modi has his own style of creating enemies. If there is no enemy, he'll create from nowhere. And so that's why if he is criticized, he should also try to understand that why he has been criticized so wildly. Why? And unfortunately or fortunately, the politics has changed so much that when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was there was a bonhomie, there was a harmony, there was a good relationship between the opposition leaders and between him. He and Chandrasekhar, he and Vishwanath Pratap Singh could always cut a joke and can always in public sphere can criticize each other, but can stand with each other and can talk to each other. But unfortunately, that situation is not with Mr. Modi. Either you are with him or you are against him. You can't be neutral with him. You can't be neutral with him. If you are neutral with him, then there is something wrong. So I think about journalism, I've said it and I have said it umpteen times. If there is a Goti media, there is also a manipulated media also. There is also a media which is motivated also. And this is not just to one side of the media or the other side of the media. There is a left of the center media, there is a right of the center media. And both of them are not neutral. Both of them are not doing objective journalism the way it should be. But I don't know if the journalism has changed in last few years, because earlier the right media was not so strong, not so powerful. Suddenly it has become very powerful. So left will also find it very difficult to adjust with them. The right will also find it very difficult to adjust with them. Unfortunately, the objective journalism is a casualty in this.
So
and
you
anybody
are saying,
who wants to be an objective,
okay,
he gets
so you are saying
criticism from both the sides.
So you are saying that he is, whether we like it or not, the most criticized politician, but he must take it on his chin. That's what you're saying, because he's in public life. Okay, quick response from Sanju Verma to that before I open this up to Ishkaran Bhandari, Lokesh Jindal, and of course Rijuda. Yes.
You know, Rahul, Smita Prakash made some very interesting points. And without taking away from what Asutosh said, let's be very clear. Prime Minister Modi has been called Hitler, Gaddafi, Mussolini, Aurangzeb ki aulad, Dawood Ibrahim, blah, 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 Bandar, Neech Chai Wala, Anpad Gawar, Jahil. I'm just naming a couple of the names he's been called. He has never retaliated. But now, this entire vilification campaign has been institutionalized by an ecosystem that is not willing to still digest that this is a man who came to power in 2014. He was dismissed as a one-time aberration. He came back with a bigger majority in 2019. People still could not digest it and said, oh, acha, ye Modi phenomena, 7-8 saal chalega, uske baad, it will lose its charm. Now when they realize that Gujarat has set the template for 2024 and for the BJP-led NDA to come back with a greater majority than 303, this cabal has lost its marbles. And that is why the attacks will get vicious, is what the Prime Minister said. Abhi zulm aur badhne wale hain. Isliye hame apni sahan shakti ko aur vistar karna padega.
Modi has never retaliated. He's never retaliated. Congress... Let me bring in Lokesh Jindal of the Congress. Never retaliated, says Sanju Verma. So he basically is not someone who is chafing at the fact that he's being criticized. He's only warning us that there are people who, in the garb of being neutral, are poisoning our minds by filling them with all sorts of candidates to influence public opinion in a way that could end up harming the democracy of this country. Now, look at Jindal, I'll take you back before you sort of single out Mr. Modi. I'll take you back, in fact, to right after independence. Ishkaran Bhandari will also remember this, being a lawyer and someone familiar with the law. Mr. Nehru had used exactly the same refrain. He was very upset that his work was being criticized. And he said that this constituted a massive threat, so much so that he brought in the First Amendment, even though his government was not actually at that moment in time popularly elected. He brought in an amendment to actually, in some ways, retaliate, reduce, or criminalize free speech. It was absolute, it was then criminalized. That was retaliation. Modi has never done that. Lokesh Jindal, respond.
Yes, good evening, Rahul. Rahul, answering the first question, Sanju Verma said that Modi has been criticized on his private life when he visits his home, when he meets his mother, when he goes for a puja. Then let me tell you, Mr. Modi himself carries the entire cameraman, photographers, whenever he is even touching his mother's feet, when he is performing puja. when he's doing yoga, what is the need for this form of a coverage? It is almost like he's inviting these criticisms by himself. If he has to do all these things in his if he wants a privacy, a private life, let him do it the way every individual does. Why to bring it out in the public life? And when you are bringing it in the public life, then you should be ready with the reactions of the public. Secondly, when you talk about civil society, media, now media is the fourth pillar of democracy. Civil society, institutions, now all of them, they have ranked India, they have cautioned India with its poor performance. Now, when I talk about EIU, Democratic Index, it has not fared India well. India's rank in the Global Hunger Index has rolled down. India's rank in Human Development Index has been 132, which is poor. India's press index slipped down to 150. And when we talk about recently the government entering into controversy with the Supreme Court, then all these are not a healthy functioning of democracy. Now, we expect the Prime Minister to respect the theory of checks and balances, all the institutions that have been constitutionally safeguarded so as to check rise of absolutist power. They must be safeguarded, and we must all remember that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So rather than calling them thekedars, singling them out and trying to call them names, the Prime Minister must act more responsibly and understand that the role that they perform is very important.
Well, actually, Sanju Verma talked about retaliation. Now, none of what you have said suggests that there has been retaliation. If anything, the Prime Minister has gamely taken it on his chin, according to him, as he says, and he has gone on, never allowed anyone to disrupt him. And he says that he, in fact, takes it as a wake-up call of sorts. Keeps me alert, he says, to quote him exactly. It has benefited me a lot. It always keeps me alert. Ishkaran Bhandari, how do you respond to what Lokesh Jindal is saying, what Sanju Verma has said, what Smita Prakash has said, what Asutosh is saying? I'll tell you one thing, viewers. The very fact that we are having this debate, that itself is a marker of neutrality tonight. Smita Prakash, I think, mentioned that there appeared to be a complete blackout at 9 p.m. yesterday about these comments. I agree with her. Even today, no one is looking at these comments. In fact, the newspapers have also glossed them over. Why? Is it because there is a sort of, a come to Jesus moment? If people realize that perhaps they're guilty and now they don't want to confront their own sort of skeletons, and that's the reason why they've swept it under the carpet. Well, times now, viewers, there's no skeletons. So it can have these conversations. It can bring out all these conversations that others are censoring. That's why you watch Times Now. Let me go across to Ishkaran Bhandari. Respond, Ishkaran Bhandari.
Rahul, let's first deal with our first Prime Minister. Commonwealth ka das hai Nehru for saying that Majrooh Sultanpuri was sent to jail for 2 years. That was the freedom of speech in India. So let us be very clear when we talk about freedom of speech, forgetting the part on how he brought in reasonable restrictions to restrict everybody's speech, or how Congress, when internet era came in, brought in 66A to again restrict the speech on internet because it was a new medium. But let us deal with the facts here. When it has been said by Asutosh that Vajpayee ji also faced criticism, please understand, he faced criticism of the right man in the wrong party. What Modi faces is the wrong man in the wrong party. A fundamental difference that he faces. And not only that, you see his speech after 2007 victory. He said till 2007 victory, they were blaming me because they thought Gujarat might reject me. But after I won 2007, now they blame Gujaratis. कि भैया तुम्हारा दिमाग खराब हो गया जो इसको वोट कर रहे हो. So this was the level of hate, from initially blaming him to blaming Gujaratis. Even yesterday, there are tweets by left loonies who are, to quote Tehseen, who are blaming Gujaratis for voting for Prime Minister Modi. Now let us come to a new aspect of it. What is this neutral people? People who their entire life have made their bread and butter from TV. And I will take a name, Ravish Kumar. Now go out and say, TV to Seth ka hai. Who was running it before? It was running on fresh air. There was no Seth running it. Then they say entire media, entire TV is Godi media. So while you are in TV, TV is the best platform. The minute you are not in TV, it is Godi media. So now come to whichever forum I am on. So please let us be very clear. There is no neutrality. Of course, the Prime Minister is also making political statements. I don't think so. It bothers him. He is a very large man. all these statements, all these attacks on him. He is the tallest tree, he has the most fruit-laden tree because he brings the most votes. So of course he gets attacked, but he is a politician. He will use these attacks for highlighting what is being done so that people are aware, which is his right. But the last thing I will say, let us end this debate on hypocrisy and fake news. There is no neutrality. It is complete agenda driven by the leftist institutions because the Nehruvian consensus has broken. There was a pre-Modi era before 2014, whosoever government, it was a Nehruvian consensus. Now we are decisively, and history will record this, 10 years, 20 years down the line of how 2014 was a post-Modi era.
Okay, let me bring in the TMC spokesperson. Thank you very much for waiting your turn patiently, Riju Datta. I wanted to first speak to at least 3 journalists and 1 non-partisan in the form of Ishkan Bhandari to get a sense really of what this conversation was before really bringing in the political stakeholders. So I just want to bring you in and ask you, look, the Prime Minister is obviously aware that a spokesperson of your political party went out there and, as per the PIB, faked some news to create some sort of disaffection. I mean, it was a very serious transgression. I'm not defending here the arrest, the subsequent arrest, the detentions, etc. I don't think he should have been detained or arrested. But forget that for a moment, and let's talk a little bit about the motivations. When you sort of color the Prime Minister's entire outreach to the victims of the Morbi tragedy and use fake news to do so, what exactly are you doing? What are you playing at?
Okay, thank you. Please give me the courtesy of time. Now let's start off with some facts. Narendra Modi ji is the biggest face for BJP. It is because of him they won Gujarat. It is because of him that people vote in the country for BJP. And so I think he also being my Prime Minister, whether I vote for him or not, whether I like him or not, immaterial. He is my Prime Minister. And I think he should not have this chui-mui attitude and he should not be sensitive. He should take this. He should take all the hatred he is getting because he is the Prime Minister of the biggest democracy in the world, for Christ's sake. The only women Chief Minister in the country is every day abused, is every day rebuked by none other than the leader of opposition in Bengal, who is the BJP MLA. Sub judice maybe, but a BJP man. But so she takes it. So you have to take it. That is number 1. Number 2, when Prime Minister says, you know, the neutrals are attacking, the neutrals are doing this and that and blah, blah, blah. Okay, to a certain extent, I admit. Now, I will ask the Prime Minister, you have won with a thumping majority for the 7th record time in Gujarat. Our National General Secretary forwarded a tweet. Okay, as per Saibal laws, you arrested him. Very good, you arrested him. The Honorable Court of Law given him bail. Then again the next day, without a warrant, you again gone and arrested him. Why? Did that show political grace? No. It showed outreach, witch hunt, lowest level political vendetta, and then again he got bail today in the court of law. So who got a slap in the face? BJP got it for their political vendetta. It was prejudiced by Gujarat police. Now, secondly, if in PM Modi's New India, anybody who talks against BJP, and the country knows this, is blamed anti-national. If you have a voice of dissent, I'll take the names, 2 contradicting names which people will make people shout. But what happened in the case of Umar Khalid? The Supreme Court has said he has no involvement. What happened with him? What happened with Gauri Lankesh? So any free speech, any dissent, you will slap sedition charges, you will put people behind bars. Journalists were made to be stripped in Madhya Pradesh when they spoke against a BJP MLA. We have seen all that also.
But Mr.
So
Riju Datta, you are being selective. Are you being selective tonight?
Other political parties are not doing it.
Dr. Datta, are you being selective tonight? Let me remind you of a person.
No,
do you
I'm
remember?
Just saying this.
One second. You're talking about retaliation. I will ask that question of Sanju Verma. I'm not in favor of somebody being arrested for, defamation, etc. Have civil defamation. Scrap criminal defamation. It doesn't need to exist on the rule books either. I'm sure Ishkan Bhandari will agree with me. But 1 minute. Yes, absolutely. Let me come to you 1 second, Riju Datta. You see, I'm worried that we are again being selective. Now, you're not being neutral at all. I know that you're a member of the TMC, but you expect Sanju Verma to be neutral when you've forgotten. Do you remember a person called Ambikesh Mohapatra?
No.
No, you don't.
Absolutely not.
I'll tell you
and
why you don't know him.
3-4 more names
Ambikesh,
also. I will tell you this.
One second, let me finish.
No, I know him. I know him. He's a Jadavpur University professor.
What happened to him?
Who forwarded a mail, a meme
what
of
happened
the
to
Chief
him?
Minister of
What
Bengal,
happened to
and he
him?
was arrested. He was
arrested. It was a joke.
He was arrested.
It was a joke.
He was arrested.
About
and I'm
Mamata
saying
Banerjee. Arrested him. That's
no,
not retaliation.
I will tell you this.
Okay, one second. Do you know someone called Priyanka Sharma?
Rahul, can I tell you something?
Do you know Priyanka Sharma?
I will say. I know.
Do you know Priyanka Sharma?
I know. Trust me, I do my homework. And I will say this. I will say this on record.
Do you know?
If Riju Datta
Do you know the victims?
If Riju Datta
do you know the victims?
Attacks,
do you know the victims? Do you know the victims of the 2021 post-poll riots in Bengal that the NHRC and some of the courts of this land have said were witch hunted for exercising their rights under the law to vote freely and fairly for the party of their choice? Do you know those people, Riju Datta? Or do you not know them because they eventually ended up living in Assam fearing for their lives?
Okay, you're finished, Rahul?
Yes, sir.
Then I will tell you this. Me as the national spokesperson of Trinamool Congress, if I morph an image of the Honorable Prime Minister, even whether I love him or hate him immaterial, I also should be arrested. If you morph the picture of the only female chief minister in the country, there are laws that need to be punished as per the IT laws.
So you're validating the arrest of
you brought in post-poll violence. No, answer me. Rahul, one second. One second, Rahul.
Yes.
No. What I am trying to say is, you brought in post-poll violence victims. I will ask you a straightforward question. Saket Gokhale was arrested for a tweet on Morbi. The Morbi contract, the bridge contract, was given to a watch manufacturer called Oreva Group.
He should be arrested.
Hasmukh Patel has pictures of meeting Modi and having a cup of tea.
He should be
Has
arrested.
he been arrested? Has he been questioned? Please ask Sanju Verma. Has he been questioned?
I have raised this.
Questioned? Forget arrest.
One second, Mr. Datta. I have raised this.
Forget about neutrality.
No, one second.
Don't talk about BJP.
No, one second.
Dr.
Datta, we have had 1 week of debates on exactly this point on Times now on this show. I have called for that person's arrest. You are probably aware of it. You might have even been part of one of those debates, or someone from your party might have been. But let me tell you, viewers,
I've been a part of
two wrongs
show.
don't make a right. Two wrongs don't make a right. And we can't also be selective. Today is the time, viewers, when we must have an honest conversation, because somebody, the Prime Minister, was honest and he came out and said what he felt like. So I want to come to you, Sanju Verma, but right there before Smita Prakash has raised her hand, just wanted to bring her in. I'll give you right after that an opportunity to rebut. Smita Prakash, you were making a point. Yes.
Yeah, I just quickly want to say a couple of things. That those who think that Modi doesn't have a cordial relationship with politicians today, please speak to parliament reporters who will tell you a different story, or else go onto Twitter and just do a search and see Modi's pictures with Sitaram Yechuri, with Kharge, with the South Indian politicians who attended just a couple of days back, in fact. So that being said, the other point was about Vajpayee and Advani. You know, when Vajpayee and Advani both faced criticism, but on the other hand, Vajpayee ran a very weak government at that time because he had coalition. So he did not face the kind of criticism that Modi faces, because Modi comes with a strong government. So the second point is, Advani also faced a lot of criticism, but both of them stretched out and cultivated those very journalists who pretend to be neutral, their critics, and gave them access during that time. Fine, I'm not critical about that situation or what they did. But what I'm trying to say is, Modi on the other hand has a different style. He doesn't have to have the style of a Vajpayee or an Advani. He feels, rightly or wrongly, that this entrenched Delhi media, he doesn't need them. Even when he was in Gujarat, when the media then blocked him, he went on to social media, and he's managed to communicate without going through this very entrenched media who have laid down the rules that unless you go via us, you cannot communicate to the people of this country.
On the point
that has been the rule for so many decades out here. Modi broke that rule.
Okay, on the point. So basically, access, the lack of access became a point of contention. That's what Smita Prakash is saying, as if it's the God-given right of every journalist to be sitting in the lap of a politician and advising that politician, because that gives them sort of reverse ego massage. Okay, 1 minute. Let me just say, viewers, on the point statement that Smita Prakash made about journalism of a particular cabal. Now, I'm not going to name this particular journalist because then I'll be seen as a person who is actively promoting hate against this person. But the work that this journalist did on the Gujarat riots, the Supreme Court itself believed that it was not above being motivated. The opinion of a person is not the realm of the evidence. There is a likelihood of the same being politically motivated, cannot be ruled out. The way in which the things have moved in Gujarat post-Godhra incident, such allegation, counter-allegation are not uncommon and has been raised a number of times and have been found to be untenable and afterthought, unquote. This is on the works of very controversial work.
Can I
One second, I just want to bring in Sanju Verma because there is another story I want to pay a little bit of attention to. I'll come back to you, Asutosh ji. 30 seconds. Sanju Verma, quick response to Riju Datta. He says that you hound, when you said that there has been no repercussions, you have hounded your critics. Look at Saket Gokhale.
Okay, you know, Rahul, I'll just share a very small anecdote which I think is very relevant. I normally don't do this. Just taking a cue from Smita Prakash. You know, earlier this year we had the national executive meet of the BJP at Hyderabad, and during the dinner time at one of the sessions, obviously, you know, people like me who are new to politics and who wouldn't want to, have two words with the Prime Minister. I was standing there and he just asked me, "Abhi bhi jhagda karti ho kya?" So I just said, "नहीं sir, बस जब कोई आपके बारे में बोलता है तब फिर सहन नहीं होता है." बोला, क्या जरूरत है आपको, आप अपना खुश रहो. So Prime Minister is not a chuli mui. He's very thick-skinned. Point number one. Point number two. That said, he's a human. He's a politician, but it also gives him the right to call out the bluff of those who have institutionalized peddling of fake narratives, institutionalized corruption, institutionalized this entire anti-Modi mindset under the garb of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And coming to Riju Datta, I hope he will not heckle me. I did not interrupt you. Listen to this. At least the Gujarat government clearly said, and I have been on Times Now debates where I clearly said that whoever is the culprit in the Morbi case, Jaisukh Patel, he is apparently absconding. Let him be brought to book. We are not like Mamata Banerjee, who after the Hamsa Khali gang rape, imagine Rahul, a 14-year-old girl is gang raped. One of the chief perpetrators is the son of a TMC MLA. And what does Mamata Banerjee say in full public domain? She's laughing and saying, who are we to decide whether she was raped, whether she was pregnant because of an affair gone wrong? What can be more shameful than that? And Mamata Banerjee is a repeat offender after the Birbhum massacre in which 12 people were burnt alive. And again your Trinamool Congress Bahubali was involved. What did Mamata Banerjee say? कुछ हुआ ही नहीं. So who are you to sit here and give certificates of integrity to PM Modi? पहले अपने गिरेबान में झांको, look at your own backyard.
Well, let me also tell you, viewers, look, Sanju Verma might be stridently defending. I do believe that those who ran the company that led to, who ran the company that led to, one second, who ran the company that led to the ghastly incident in Morbi should be booked post-haste. They should be jailed post-haste. We have been demanding this, and I hope now that the elections are over, that will happen. The sooner, the better. The son of a minister in the Lakhimpuri case has been arrested. Sanju Verma will point out and say that, look, we have applied the law, and I hope that that same principle will be applied to those who ran the company that was principally responsible for the Morbi disaster. Riju Datta, very quickly, Ashutosh right after. I don't have much time, so please keep it short. 30 seconds each, please. I request you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just keep it short. I'll just take 20 seconds. I'll give one anecdote like Sanju Verma gave, and then I'll tell Sanju Verma only one thing. Don't preach us about rape when you have let go of Bilkis Banu's rapists and called them Sanskari Brahmins. So please don't act holier than that. Now I will tell you my story. I did not.
Okay, please, gentlemen, I don't have the time.
I
don't have the time for this. No, please. I don't have the time. I'm telling you, I don't have the time. I have to go to an important story. Ashutosh ji, 30 seconds, lower everyone's faces. Ashutosh ji, 30 seconds, please.
See, Rahul, Narendra Modi was one of the darlings of the press. Smita knows this and I also know this because we had worked together. And this all changed after 2002. But 2002 was such a controversial thing like 1984. Yes, Supreme Court has given him clean chit. But look at the track record. The Supreme Court has also called him Nero. The NHRC led by Chief Justice of India, one of the eminent jurists, Justice J.S. Verma. Read the report. Justice P.B. Sawant, Election Commission. So it's not that you criticize somebody, so you are abusing him. I am the one who has shared dais with the RSS chief and the number 1 and number 2. Yeah. I mean, I was criticized. I'm neither leftist nor rightist, but every day I get abuses. So if you are in a public space, you will be criticized. But what is objectionable is that don't create enemies out of it. Medha, you might not like Medha Patekar, but Medha Patekar has an alternate view about the development. Don't say that she's anti-Gujarati or anti-national. That is where my objection is.
Okay, once quickly, someone is waving their finger. 1 second, I think it's Ishkan Bhandari. Yes.
Rahul, Medha Patekar and her likes have a view to stop development of India. That's not an alternate view of development.
Okay, that's not an alternate. Fine, I need to move on. Viewers. Okay, Riju Datta, I'm giving you 10 seconds. Please, don't anecdotes. No anecdotes. Get to the point. What is the point? Riju Datta, yes.
No. I made a tweet. I made a wrong tweet about PM Modi. I deleted that tweet and I apologize. After that, UP police filed 31 FIRs.
Oh, don't talk about all of that. I'll tell you my personal example. You want me to give you some anecdotes? I reported a story. I reported a story that made the front pages of every newspaper, and your police wants to throw me in jail. And only me, not any other journalist, not any other editor that carried the same report. Only Rahul Shivsankar. Why? Because I have the guts, the spine to ask you a couple of straightforward questions. I don't mind it though. Viewers, if you start talking about anecdotes, there is no end to them. There is one opposition politician who nearly chased me out of the country, by the way. For what? For exposing his misdemeanor. What was it? He jumped into a counter at the airport and roughed up the staff. It was all on TV. We reported it. He said this is malicious mischaracterization of me, this, that, the other. And he sent his police force. I had to hide. Can you believe it, viewers? So let's not talk about anecdotes. We have several of them. Yes, Smita Prakash, you'll be stunned the extent to which I had to hide for 2 days. Anyhow, and that was for a story where the person was clearly in the wrong. Viewers, I've run out of time, unfortunately, but I really wanted to focus on the other big story. And it is very quick. But the Supreme Court has closed the door, has completely shut the door now on any attempt to give justice to those who were the victims of a genocide in Kashmir in 1990. Viewers, not only has this door shut, but most importantly, these victims have been betrayed by the system for 30 years. And I'm not just talking about the judiciary sector, I'm talking about the executive, I'm talking about those in the justice system, in the investigative machinery. This is a travesty. I was going to ask some big questions on this. We've run out of time. We will continue this story tomorrow. I leave it at that. All of this happening at a time when more and more Hindus, their names are appearing on the kill lists of Islamists. Who denied justice for genocide is a question that will be asked by this channel. I'll take a short break.